There is something profoundly life-changing about committing your day to God. Each day we wake up, we're given a blank canvas, a fresh start, a new opportunity to live, to grow, and to experience life in ways that we may not have even imagined the night before. Yet, too often, we move into our days without giving much thought to how we approach it. We rush out the door, driven by tasks, appointments, and the pull of the world around us. But imagine if, before anything else, we committed our day to God. Imagine what our lives could look like if we gave Him the first moments of our mornings and entrusted the hours that follow to His care. When you commit your day to God, you're inviting Him into every moment. You're saying, Lord, this day belongs to you, and I want to live it in a way that pleases you. You're acknowledging that no matter how much control you think you have over your life, there is a greater force, a higher purpose, and a divine plan at work. And in doing so, you free yourself from the heavy burden of trying to control every aspect of your day. Instead of forcing outcomes, you start trusting that God's hand is guiding you, that His wisdom is shaping your decisions, and His strength is giving you the courage to face whatever comes your way. The world will pull at you, it will offer distractions, temptations, and pressures. But when you commit your day to God, you become anchored in something that cannot be moved. You become a person who has set their eyes on the eternal, who recognizes that no matter how much the world changes, God's presence remains constant. It's like planting your feet on solid ground when the storms of life are raging around you. You are no longer tossed by the winds of doubt, fear, and confusion. Instead, you stand firm in His purpose for your life. One of the most beautiful things about committing your day to God is that you don't have to be perfect to do it. You don't have to have it all together. You don't have to know exactly how everything will unfold, and you certainly don't have to be free from challenges or struggles. What you do need is a willing heart, a heart that says, Lord, even though I don't have it all figured out, I trust you. And let me tell you, that is enough. God doesn't require perfection. He desires a relationship. He wants you to come as you are, with all of your doubts, all of your fears, all of your failures, and all of your strengths. And when you give your day to Him, He will be there with you, guiding you through it. Your relationship with God isn't just something that you build on Sundays or during quiet moments of prayer. It is something that can shape every moment of every day. Imagine starting your day with God's Word as the first thing that enters your mind. Imagine starting your work with a prayer, a reminder that your labor is not in vain, that your efforts are aligned with God's purpose for you. Imagine facing the challenges of your day with the knowledge that you are not doing it alone, that God is walking with you, strengthening you, empowering you, and comforting you in your time of need. The truth is that when we start our day with God, everything changes. We begin to see the world differently. The small things that would normally stress us out no longer have the same power over us. We start to approach our relationships with more grace, more patience, and more understanding. We handle our problems with more wisdom and clarity because we've taken the time to commit ourselves and our struggles to the one who holds all wisdom. Sometimes life can feel overwhelming. The responsibilities pile up, the expectations rise, and it can feel like there's never enough time or energy to meet them all. But when you commit your day to God, you're inviting Him into your workload, into your responsibilities, into your family, and into every area of your life. You're asking for His guidance in your decision-making, His strength in your weaknesses, and His peace in your anxiety. It's like a deep breath of fresh air when you realize that you don't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulders by yourself. You can lean on God, trust His plan, and rest in the assurance that He is with you every step of the way. Even in the moments of quiet, when you are alone with your thoughts, committing your day to God opens up a space for Him to speak to you. It allows you to hear His still, small voice leading you, encouraging you, and guiding you toward his will. The more you commit your day to him, the more you begin to recognize his presence in everything around you. The smile of a stranger, the warmth of the sun on your face, the peaceful moments of stillness, they all become reminders that God is with you, that he is present in the details of your life, that he is invested in your every moment. What does it mean to commit your day to God? It means saying, God, I need you in every moment, every decision, and every conversation. It means not relying on your own understanding, but trusting in his guidance, even when you don't know what tomorrow will bring. It means surrendering your worries, your doubts, and your plans to him, knowing that he will lead you in the right direction. It means being aware that no matter how chaotic your day may get, there's a peace that surpasses all understanding available to you at any time. When you commit your day to God, you're also setting an example for those around you. People notice when your life is different. They notice when you approach challenges with calm confidence, when you face difficulties with a spirit of gratitude, and when you interact with others with kindness and grace. You are a reflection of God's love in action. Your commitment to him not only transforms your own life, but it becomes a testimony to others of his goodness and faithfulness. They may not understand it fully, but they will see something in you that they desire. And in that way, your life becomes a witness to the power of a day committed to God. I want you to think about the long-term effects of committing your day to God. It doesn't just change your immediate situation. Over time, it transforms your character, your mindset, and the very way you live. Each day builds upon the next, and as you continue to commit your days to him, you begin to see patterns emerge in your life. Patterns of growth, patterns of peace, patterns of purpose. You'll start to realize that as you trust God with each day, he is transforming you from the inside out. You are becoming more patient, more understanding, more loving, more gracious, and more focused on what truly matters. And as your heart shifts, your entire life shifts with it. And while we may face days of difficulty, days of doubt, or days of fear, when we commit those days to God, we know that we are not walking through them alone. He is there to comfort us, to strengthen us, and to help us press forward. And as we look back on our lives, we will see that each day we entrusted to God was a day that led us closer to him, a day that molded us into the person he created us to be. When you start your day by committing it to God, you're also setting the tone for the rest of your day. You're saying, this day is not mine, it is yours. My time is not my own, it is a gift from you. My decisions, my actions, my words, may they reflect your love, your grace, and your truth. And with that commitment comes a confidence, a sense of peace that you cannot find in anything else. Because you know that the creator of the universe, the one who holds all things together, is with you every step of the way. And so today I encourage you to take a moment wherever you are and commit your day to God. Surrender your plans, your fears, your joys, and your struggles to him. Invite him into every area of your life and trust that he will guide you, protect you, and empower you to live the life he has called you to live. Let today be the start of something new, a day committed to God and filled with his presence. Trust that as you walk with him, he will make your path straight. He will give you peace that passes understanding, and he will be with you always, even to the end of the age. Committing your day to God means surrendering the day's moments, decisions, and challenges to his guidance, trusting that his wisdom, strength, and peace will direct your path. Starting your day with God is not about perfection, but about cultivating a relationship of trust where you acknowledge his presence, rely on his direction, and recognize his role in shaping your life. Consistently committing your day to God leads to personal transformation, helping you grow in patience, grace, and understanding, and influencing those around you as they witness the peace and purpose that come from living with God at the center. There is something powerful, something profoundly transformative about inviting God's presence into the day. Each day we wake up, we are faced with countless decisions, tasks, and encounters. We live in a world that is always moving, constantly pulling us in different directions. Yet before we dive into the demands of the day, there is an opportunity, a sacred invitation to open our hearts and lives to God's presence. This simple act of surrendering our day to Him can be the most powerful way to begin. It changes the way we see the world, the way we approach our challenges, and the way we relate to others. Inviting God's presence into your day is an intentional act of placing Him at the center of your life. It's more than just a fleeting thought or a quick prayer before rushing out the door. It's a moment of consecration, a purposeful decision to let God be the guiding force throughout every moment. When we invite His presence, we are acknowledging that without Him, we are powerless to navigate the complexities of life. His wisdom, strength, and love are the foundations upon which we can build our day. When we talk about inviting God's presence, it's not just about asking for help when we are in trouble or seeking His presence in moments of prayer or worship. It's about making room for Him in every area of our lives, whether it's the mundane moments like washing dishes or commuting to work, or the bigger decisions like choosing a career path or navigating difficult relationships. Inviting God into those moments transforms them. We stop going through the motions and we begin to see these activities as sacred opportunities to experience God's presence in real, practical ways. So what does it look like to invite God's presence into your day? It starts with a decision, a moment of pause before the busyness takes over. It begins with a conscious awareness that you are not living this day on your own strength. You don't have to handle the responsibilities, challenges, or decisions alone. When you open your heart to God, you are surrendering your will to His. You are saying, Lord, I know that I cannot do this without you. I need your guidance, your wisdom, and your strength. The key to inviting God's presence into your day is understanding that His presence is already with you. God is always present, always available. He is not distant, nor does He withdraw from you when you are struggling. His presence is not something you have to earn or fight for. It is a gift. But we often forget this truth in the midst of our hectic lives. We get caught up in the noise and chaos of the world around us, and we forget that the Creator of the universe desires to walk with us, to be with us, and to guide us in everything we do. One of the most beautiful things about God's presence is that it is not limited to specific places or certain times. It is not confined to church services or special spiritual moments. God's presence is with you in your everyday life, in every conversation, in every challenge, and in every victory. He is present in the small moments and the big moments alike. And when you invite Him into your day, you are acknowledging that He is present not just in the extraordinary, but in the ordinary. The power of inviting God's presence is that it brings peace. The peace that comes from God surpasses all understanding. It is not a peace based on our circumstances or the absence of conflict. Instead, it is a deep, abiding peace that exists regardless of what is happening around us. When you invite God's presence, you are inviting His peace into your heart. In the midst of stress, uncertainty, and anxiety, God's presence becomes a place of refuge. His peace calms the storms in your mind and in your soul, giving you the strength to face whatever comes your way. You begin to experience a sense of calm, knowing that you are not walking through the day alone. There is also a clarity that comes when we invite God's presence into our day. The distractions of life can cloud our thinking, making it difficult to discern the right choices. But when we make room for God's presence, He illuminates our path. His wisdom guides our decisions, and His understanding gives us the ability to navigate the complexities of life with confidence. God's presence brings clarity to confusion, direction to uncertainty, and purpose to our actions. When we invite Him into the decisions of the day, we are allowing His voice to speak louder than the noise of the world. Another beautiful aspect of inviting God's presence is the way it affects our relationships. We are not created to live in isolation. We are social beings, and our relationships with others are an important part of our lives. Yet relationships can often be challenging. People can hurt us, misunderstand us, and disappoint us. But when we invite God's presence into our relationships, He transforms the way we interact with others. His love becomes the foundation for how we treat those around us. We begin to see people the way He sees them, with compassion, understanding, and grace. His presence empowers us to love others unconditionally, to forgive freely, and to extend mercy even when it's difficult. God's presence also brings strength. Life is filled with challenges, some of which feel too heavy to bear. There are moments when we feel overwhelmed, when the weight of the world seems too much to handle. But when we invite God into those moments, His strength becomes our strength. His presence empowers us to keep moving forward, to press on even when we feel weak. In the face of adversity, His presence reminds us that we are not relying on our own strength, but on His. His power is made perfect in our weakness. And when we invite Him into our day, we are tapping into that divine strength that enables us to endure and overcome. There is also a transformative power that comes with inviting God's presence into your day. As you commit to walking with Him day by day, you begin to change. His presence shapes you, molds you, and refines you. Over time, you begin to reflect more of His character, His love, His patience, His kindness, His humility. The more you invite Him into your life, the more He transforms your heart, your mind, and your actions. You become more like Him, and your life becomes a testimony of His grace and power. Inviting God's presence into your day is also an act of worship. Worship is not just about singing songs or attending church. Worship is a lifestyle. It's about recognizing God's greatness, His goodness, and His faithfulness in every area of life. When you invite His presence, you are offering your day to Him as an act of worship. You are saying, Lord, I recognize that You are sovereign over all things. I acknowledge that You are worthy of my time, my attention, and my affection. In this way, every moment of your day becomes an opportunity to worship Him. The way you do your work, the way you love your family, the way you respond to challenges, all of it becomes an offering to God. You are living with a heart of gratitude, acknowledging that everything you have is a gift from Him. As you invite God's presence into your day, you begin to notice His fingerprints all around you. You begin to see His handiwork in the beauty of nature, in the laughter of loved ones, in the small moments of joy that might otherwise go unnoticed. God's presence opens your eyes to the blessings that are all around you. You start to live with a deeper sense of awareness, recognizing that He is always present, always working, and always revealing Himself to you in unexpected ways. But how do we invite God's presence into our day? It begins with prayer. It starts by taking a moment to pause, to quiet your heart, and to invite God into your thoughts, your actions, and your decisions. It can be as simple as saying, Lord, I invite Your presence into this day. Be with me, guide me, and help me to see You in everything I do. It's an act of surrender, of laying down your own plans and asking God to have His way in your life. And as you make this a daily practice, it becomes second nature, a constant awareness of His presence. It's important to remember that inviting God's presence is not about asking for His presence to come down or to arrive at a specific moment in time. His presence is already here. It's about tuning in, opening your heart, and becoming aware of His constant nearness. He is with you in every step, in every breath, in every situation. Inviting His presence is about aligning yourself with the truth that He is already here and choosing to live in the reality of His presence. When you invite God's presence into your day, it changes everything. You begin to see life through a different lens. You start to realize that the ordinary moments are sacred, that every decision matters, and that you are not alone. The presence of God becomes a source of peace, wisdom, strength, and transformation. It shifts your perspective, strengthens your faith, and equips you to navigate the complexities of life with grace. And as you continue to invite His presence into each new day, you will discover that God's presence is not just a momentary experience, but a constant companion, walking with you through every step of life. A relationship of trust and dependence with God is foundational to our spiritual walk and growth. It is a relationship where we acknowledge that our own strength, wisdom, and understanding are insufficient on their own, and we fully rely on God's guidance, protection, and provision in every area of our lives. Trusting in God is not a one-time act, but a continual process of surrender, submission, and faith, acknowledging that God knows what is best for us even when we don't understand the reasons behind certain circumstances. Dependence on Him means that we are willing to place every part of our lives in His hands, trusting that He will take care of us in ways we may never fully comprehend. Trusting in God starts with a recognition of His sovereignty. We trust Him because we understand that He is the creator of the universe and that He holds everything in His hands. His understanding is beyond ours, and His ways are higher than our ways. In a world where we are often told to trust in our own abilities, intellect, and control, this can be a challenging concept to embrace. However, when we place our trust in God, we are acknowledging that we do not need to have all the answers. We don't need to control every situation because we are confident that God has it all under control. This trust requires letting go of our need to understand every detail, and instead choosing to trust in God's perfect plan. At its core, trust in God is a decision, a choice to believe in His faithfulness and His ability to guide us through all circumstances. It is not a passive trust, but an active one. Trusting in God means that we choose to move forward even when we don't have all the answers, because we know that God is with us and that He is for us. It means not relying on our own understanding or control, but choosing to walk by faith, confident that God's plan is far greater than anything we could orchestrate on our own. This trust deepens as we experience God's faithfulness in our lives. The more we see God's provision, protection, and guidance, the more we learn to trust Him. There's a process of growth that happens when we begin to rely on Him. Initially, our trust may be small, but as we take steps of faith and see God's hand at work, our trust grows. Every answered prayer, every victory over adversity, and every moment of peace amidst chaos builds a foundation of trust that makes us more confident in God's ability to carry us through whatever we face. Dependence on God is closely tied to trust, but it takes this relationship even further. Dependence acknowledges our weakness and our need for God in every moment. It is recognizing that we are not self-sufficient and we cannot navigate life alone. In our human nature, we often strive for independence and self-reliance. We are taught to be strong, to stand on our own 2 feet, and to handle things ourselves. But in our walk with God, we are called to surrender our pride and admit that we are utterly dependent on Him. This dependence is not a sign of weakness, but an acknowledgement of God's greatness and our humble position before Him. The beauty of dependence on God is that it leads to intimacy. When we fully depend on God, we draw closer to Him. We learn to rely on His strength when we are weak, His wisdom when we are confused, and His peace when we are anxious. Dependence removes the illusion of control and invites us into a deeper relationship with the one who holds all things together. It moves us beyond surface level faith into a place where we experience God in real, tangible ways. As we depend on Him, we come to know Him not just as a distant figure, but as a loving Father who cares for every detail of our lives. One of the key aspects of dependence is surrender. We must surrender our plans, our desires, and our will to God, trusting that His plans are far better than anything we could ever imagine. This surrender requires humility, as we are letting go of our own ambitions and control to submit to God's will. Surrender is not a one-time decision, but a daily choice. Every day, we must choose to release our grip on our lives and place them fully in God's hands. It's a choice to say, God, I trust you with my future. I trust you with my relationships. I trust you with my career. I trust you with my health. I trust you with my very life. It's important to note that trust and dependence are not passive acts. They require intentionality. It's easy to say we trust God, but to live out that trust requires action. Trusting God means following His lead even when we don't understand. It means obeying His word even when it goes against what we might want or what the world tells us. It means stepping out in faith even when we feel afraid or uncertain. Trusting God means choosing to obey even when it's difficult, knowing that He is faithful to His promises and that He will never leave us or forsake us. Dependence on God also means acknowledging that we cannot handle life's challenges on our own. We are not meant to bear the burdens of life by ourselves. God's word reminds us that He is our refuge and strength, an ever-present help in times of trouble. When we are weak, He is strong. When we feel overwhelmed, He is there to carry us. Dependence on God invites His strength into our weaknesses. It acknowledges that without Him we are nothing, but with Him we can do all things. This dependence is not a form of passivity, as though we are simply waiting for God to do everything for us. Rather, it is an active partnership with God. It's saying, Lord, I will do my part, but I am depending on you for the strength, wisdom, and resources I need to accomplish what you've called me to do. It's not about doing nothing, but about doing everything in partnership with God. Recognizing that we cannot do it alone. We are co-laborers with Christ, and He provides everything we need to fulfill His purposes. Another important aspect of trust and dependence is the role of prayer. Prayer is the avenue through which we communicate our dependence on God. It is a daily practice that keeps us in relationship with Him and reminds us of our need for His guidance. In prayer, we acknowledge our limitations and surrender our desires and requests to God. We trust Him with our needs, our fears, and our hopes, knowing that He is a good Father who delights in caring for His children. Prayer is not only about asking God for things, but about aligning our hearts with His will and deepening our trust in His plan. As we trust God and depend on Him, we also learn to trust His timing. This can be one of the most difficult aspects of trusting God, because our human nature often wants things to happen immediately. We want answers now, solutions now, and relief now. But God's timing is perfect. He sees the bigger picture and knows what is best for us. Trusting in His timing requires patience and a willingness to wait, even when it feels like nothing is happening. It requires us to believe that God is working behind the scenes, orchestrating the details of our lives in ways that we cannot see or understand. Dependence on God means trusting that His timing is always right, even when it's not in alignment with our own desires or expectations. In every season of life, trust and dependence are essential. In times of joy, we trust God with our success and blessings, acknowledging that all good things come from Him. In times of sorrow, we trust God with our grief, knowing that He is close to the brokenhearted. In times of uncertainty, we trust God with our future, believing that He has a plan for us that is filled with hope. Trust and dependence are not dependent on our circumstances, but are rooted in our relationship with God. They are a declaration that we believe in God's goodness, faithfulness, and ability to work all things together for our good. Trusting and depending on God transforms our perspective on life. When we fully trust in God, we no longer feel the need to control every situation. We can release our anxieties and rest in His sovereignty. When we depend on God, we stop relying on our own strength and start tapping into the limitless power of the Creator of the universe. We stop trying to do everything on our own and begin to partner with God in His work. It changes how we approach challenges, how we make decisions, and how we relate to others. The more we trust and depend on God, the more we reflect His love, His grace, and His peace to the world around us. Trust and dependence are not just for specific moments in our lives, but should be the foundation of our daily walk with God. Every moment, every decision, every circumstance is an opportunity to trust in God's faithfulness and depend on His strength. It is through this relationship of trust and dependence that we grow in our faith, deepen our intimacy with God, and become more like Christ in the process. When we speak of transformational impact, we are talking about a profound and life-changing effect that arises when we commit our hearts, minds, and actions to God. Transformation is more than a surface change or an occasional improvement in behavior. It is an internal, radical shift in who we are, how we see the world, and how we interact with others. This transformation affects every part of our being, our thoughts, our emotions, our decisions, and our relationships. When we invite God to work in us, He does not just tweak small parts of our lives. He transforms us from the inside out, aligning our hearts with His and reshaping our identities according to His will. The beauty of transformation through God is that it is not something we do ourselves. We cannot manufacture true, lasting change by our own efforts. While human willpower and discipline have their place, the real power for transformation comes from the Holy Spirit working in our lives. The Bible tells us that when we surrender our lives to God, we become a new creation. The old things pass away, and behold, all things become new. This is the essence of transformation, a complete renewal of our spirit, mind, and actions through God's power. One of the most powerful aspects of this transformation is the change it brings to our identity. Before coming into a relationship with God, we may have found our identity in things like our careers, our accomplishments, our possessions, or how others perceive us. These things provide a fleeting sense of identity, but are ultimately hollow and unstable. When we experience true transformation in God, our identity shifts. We no longer define ourselves by the world's standards or by the temporary things around us. Instead, we come to understand that our identity is rooted in who God says we are. We are His beloved children, created in His image, redeemed by His grace, and called to live out His purpose for our lives. This shift in identity is not just a change in how we see ourselves. It's a complete reordering of priorities. When we allow God to transform our hearts, our desires begin to align with His. The things that once held our attention and consumed our thoughts no longer have the same pull. We start to value what He values, and our goals begin to reflect His will. No longer are we driven by the pursuit of fame, success, or validation from others. Instead, we seek His approval above all else. This is where true transformation happens, not just in our actions, but in the very core of who we are. We begin to see ourselves through God's eyes, and this new perspective reshapes the way we live. One of the most profound changes that transformation brings is the ability to love others unconditionally. Before our hearts are transformed by God, we may struggle with selfishness, pride, bitterness, or unforgiveness. We may view others through the lens of competition, comparison, or judgment. But when we are transformed by God's love, we begin to see others differently. The more we understand and experience His love for us, the more we are able to extend that love to those around us. Our capacity to forgive, to show grace, and to love sacrificially grows. We stop focusing on how others treat us and start focusing on how we can reflect God's love to them. This doesn't mean that relationships become easy or that we no longer face challenges with others, but it does mean that our perspective shifts. Instead of seeing people as obstacles or sources of frustration, we see them as individuals God loves and is calling us to serve. True transformation also impacts the way we view and approach our circumstances. Before transformation, we might have viewed difficulties, challenges, or even ordinary events as burdens or interruptions. We might have complained, resisted, or tried to escape difficult situations. But when we experience God's transformation, our view of challenges changes. We begin to see them not as obstacles to our comfort, but as opportunities for growth. We understand that God uses every situation, whether good or bad, to shape us more into His image. Instead of being overwhelmed by stress or fear, we develop a sense of peace and confidence in God's sovereignty. We trust that He is in control, even when we cannot understand why certain things happen. And with that trust comes a peace that surpasses understanding, enabling us to endure with grace. This peace doesn't just exist in times of hardship, it affects our everyday lives. When we are transformed, we are able to carry a sense of calm and stability, regardless of external circumstances. We are no longer tossed by the waves of worry, doubt, and fear. Instead, we have an inner peace, rooted in the knowledge that God is with us, guiding and working all things together for our good. This peace is not something that we can manufacture on our own. It's a supernatural gift that comes from God's presence in our lives. As we are transformed, we are able to be a source of peace to those around us, offering a calm and steady presence to others who may be struggling. In addition to peace, transformation through God brings a deep sense of purpose and direction. Before we allow God to transform us, we may live life with a sense of aimlessness or uncertainty. We might pursue goals or careers that leave us unfulfilled or search for happiness in fleeting pleasures. But once we come into alignment with God's will, we begin to understand the unique purpose He has for our lives. We begin to see that every talent, every experience, and every moment is part of His plan. This understanding frees us from the pressure to chase after worldly success or to follow a path that isn't meant for us. Instead, we focus on fulfilling the purpose God has set before us. This gives us a deep sense of fulfillment and contentment that surpasses anything the world can offer. It empowers us to live with intentionality, knowing that our lives have meaning and that every action we take is part of God's greater plan. A key part of transformation is the way it reshapes our decision-making and actions. Before transformation, we might have been driven by selfish desires, short-term gratification, or a desire to fit in with the world's expectations. But once we experience God's transforming power, our motivations change. We begin to make decisions based on His truth, His principles, and His will. Our actions are no longer driven by fear or pride, but by love, humility, and obedience to God. This transformation affects not only the big decisions in life, but also the small, everyday choices. We begin to ask ourselves how our actions align with God's word, and we seek to honor Him in everything we do. This transformation is a continuous process of growth as we strive to become more like Christ in our thoughts, words, and deeds. One of the most powerful aspects of transformation is that it doesn't just affect us, it spills over into the lives of those around us. As we are transformed by God, we become agents of transformation in our families, communities, and workplaces. Our relationships are enriched, and we become a source of encouragement, support, and love to others. Our transformation becomes a testimony of God's power, and as others see the change in us, they are drawn to Him. Transformation is contagious. As we reflect God's love, grace, and truth, we inspire others to pursue their own relationship with Him, leading to a ripple effect of transformation that can touch many lives. At the same time, transformation brings about a greater sense of responsibility. As we are transformed, we realize that God has called us to be His hands and feet in the world. We are no longer focused solely on our own well-being, but are deeply concerned with the well-being of others. We begin to see the world through God's eyes, recognizing the needs and pain of those around us. Transformation shifts our focus from self-centeredness to a heart of compassion and service. We become more attuned to the needs of the poor, the hurting, and the marginalized, and we are compelled to act. We understand that God's work of transformation is not just for us, it's for the world. Our lives become a living testimony of His love, and we seek to share His grace with everyone we encounter. The impact of transformation is also seen in the fruit it produces in our lives. When we are transformed by God, our lives begin to reflect the fruit of the Spirit: love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-restraint. These qualities are not something we can produce on our own. They are the natural outgrowth of the Holy Spirit's work within us. As we continue to grow in our relationship with God, these fruits become more evident in our lives. We no longer struggle to exhibit these qualities. They become a natural expression of who we are. This transformation is not a one-time event, but a lifelong journey of growing in Christ-likeness. In the process of transformation, we also experience healing. Many of us carry wounds from the past, emotional scars, disappointments, or regrets. But as we surrender our pain to God, He begins to heal us. Transformation brings healing to our brokenness. God's love and grace have the power to mend what is torn, to restore what is lost, and to make us whole again. This healing isn't just physical, it goes deep into our hearts and souls. As we experience God's healing touch, we are able to forgive, let go of bitterness, and move forward with a renewed sense of hope and peace. The transformational impact of a life fully surrendered to God is immeasurable. As we are transformed by His love, we become more like Christ, and our lives bear witness to His power and grace. This transformation impacts every area of our lives, from our identity to our relationships to our purpose. It is a continual process of growth and change, leading us to become the people God has called us to be. As we allow God to transform us, we not only experience His love and power in our own lives, but also become vessels through which His transformation can touch the lives of others. The impact of God's transformative power is far-reaching, shaping not only us, but also the world around us.